If you're new here, hi, my name is Ashley, and I'm a former people pleaser. I am currently a spiritual life coach that helps women reclaim their power and let go of people pleasing tendencies and recover from their toxic independence era. So, if you are new here, welcome. Make sure you're following along. This week, I'm going to be talking about perfection paralysis and how it affects us as people pleasers. So, I'm really excited, and I've got a ton of information to share with you. So if you have ever hit that point of perfection paralysis where you have to get it absolutely perfect, you need to make sure that you're following if you're not already. And stay tuned as I really start to talk about what that is, what it looks like, and what causes it and how to overcome it. So look forward to the videos as I release them through the week. And I will see you then. So this week's blog topic, where we're talking about perfection paralysis, I went into this huge rabbit hole that I was not expecting. Have you ever looked up the meaning of discipline? Like, really looked into it and where it came from? All right, so let me just real quick. Discipline. The practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. A lack of proper parental and school discipline would be in terms of like how it's used in a sentence, right? Now, when I read that, immediately the word punishment was like popped right out. And I'm like, that's it. That's exactly the problem. Like, no wonder we're stuck in perfection paralysis because of punishment. We are terrified to be punished because we don't get it right away. And as I was like diving deeper into this word discipline, because in my brain, I'm thinking, consistent and persistent effort towards mastering a task. I had no idea that punishment was involved in the word discipline. And if you look at it, the origins of discipline actually mean mortification by scourging oneself, which scourging, by the way, is to whip as a means of punishment or create great suffering. Like literally you're beating yourself, whipping yourself. And that right there is all I needed to understand just how deep perfection paralysis goes. So hang on as I expand on that. I'm going to have to start it in a new video. So initially, discipline itself originated from words that would mean to learn or knowledge or gaining knowledge, right? And around the Middle Ages, from what I could find online, is when we started adding punishment to it, like something extremely painful because you didn't get it, right? And we have to sit there and just beat people up and punish them because they can't learn any other way. I don't know. That seems a little ridiculous to me. But I mean, if you look at it, it's everywhere in society. And I'm like, well, no wonder we have such a problem with people feeling the need to people please because we're terrified of punishment. That is exactly the problem. So talk about generational trauma. That's been going on since the Middle Ages, right? All right. So I'm going to kind of expand more on this, so bear with me, but I really needed you to understand the word discipline and what was going on behind that, because I'm personally going to start changing the way that I speak and not using that word anymore. So when I plan my content for this channel and for my blogs and stuff, I go into the Akashic Records and the collective timelines to kind of get different energy patterns to guide the direction that I want to go and kind of give me a starting point, right? And that was the word this week. And the challenge energy was imperfection, right? And as we are moving through that challenge energy of imperfection, the revelation that we needed was the word teachable. And the lesson that we were learning was discipline. Right? So that's what kind of got me into that little rabbit hole of, what was discipline? Why are we learning it? And I already knew that I was going to write about perfection paralysis as a people pleaser for this week. But as I sat down, I felt the need to look up that definition, and it just kind of sent me into the spiral. And, well, that is exactly the problem is learning discipline, right? Learning to punish ourselves for not getting it. And that's why we get so stuck. And, as a people pleaser, we want to get it right the first time. And if we don't, we end up disappointing others and we fear punishment. Like losing those relationships and, disappointing others and the hurt of other people. So hang on, because I've got way more to get into, and I'm only just getting started. So when I plan my content for this channel and for my blogs and stuff, I go into the Akashic Records and the collective timelines to kind of get different energy patterns to guide the direction that I want to go and kind of give me a starting point, right? And that was the word this week. And the challenge energy was imperfection, right? And as we are moving through that challenge energy of imperfection, the revelation that we needed was the word teachable. And the lesson that we were learning was discipline, right? So that's what kind of got me into that little rabbit hole of, what was discipline? Why are we learning it? And I already knew that I was going to write about perfection paralysis as a people pleaser for this week, but as I sat down, I felt the need to look up that definition, and it just kind of sent me into the spiral. And, well, that is exactly the problem is learning discipline, right? Learning to punish ourselves for not getting it. And that's why we get so stuck. And, as a people pleaser, we want to get it right the first time. And if we don't, we end up disappointing others and we fear punishment. Like losing those relationships and, disappointing others and the hurt of other people. So hang on, because I've got way more to get into, and I'm only just getting started. So growing up, I used to always hear, do it right the first time or don't do it at all, right? And if that is not the epitome of perfection paralysis for a people pleaser, I don't know what is. And I really, really wanted that praise and recognition, and I talked a bit about it last week. But I really, really wanted that praise and recognition from other people, and I was terrified of letting someone down, right? And that would just kind of let me spend hours and hours hyperfixating on things, trying to get it right just perfectly the first time. But what's crazy is our brains don't learn that way. Like, we have to try something repeatedly, and the moment that we learn is the difference between our expectation and the outcome. And we have to be aware of that. What do we expect and what actually happened? And that's when our brain grabs those differences and is able to kind of correlate the information and make the adjustments. But we don't learn through the punishment. The punishment's not the point, right? It has nothing to do with it, but it does put us into that paralysis, feeling like we have to get it right immediately, which, like I said, is completely contradictory to our learning process. And this is what neuroscience is starting to show us, like currently, all of these things that are being done around learning and understanding the brain. And punishment's not the answer. But that is exactly what puts us into this paralysis state, right? So I have more I want to talk about, but I'm running out of time, so I'm going to start another video for you. Okay, so I was the person that would spend hours hyperfixating on how a PowerPoint display looked. I would make sure every single line was just perfect, not a pixel out of place. I'm not kidding, pixel out of place. And then I would put it into the slideshow view, and then I would make the adjustments again. And I would make sure that every single pixel lined up just perfectly. Oh my goodness. And I used to drive my leaders crazy. And then COVID happened, and we went to online learning, and I watched my daughter doing the same thing, and it drove me crazy. And I'm like, stop it. And again, I'm one of those people, I judge myself externally. So if it's driving me crazy outside of myself, then it's something I'm doing inside of myself too, right? And my daughter is over here trying to adjust these little text boxes so that they are just the right size. They're all the same and they're all in the straight line. And I'm like, oh, just put the answers down, and then later on you can go fix it. And she has a lot of anxiety too about having it right the first time, and feeling like she's gonna, like, she fears failure if she doesn't get it right the first time, and that puts her in that paralysis state. And for ADHD people, on top of people pleasing, that just makes it 10 times worse. So that is a little bit that I wanted to share before I go into more. Okay, so perfection paralysis is literally the result of punishing people for not immediately excelling at something, especially if they are a people pleaser. But let's just put this into a different context, because this is my test. This is how I can tell if something is absolutely ridiculous. If I can take this concept and I can put it somewhere else and it still makes sense, it might check out. But if I put it into a different context and it doesn't check out, then that tells me that whatever I'm doing is absolutely absurd. So, walking. When you were an infant and you were starting to learn how to walk, you are going to kind of pull yourself up. You're going to work on pulling yourself up, or crawling first, whatever, right? But we praise babies for any kind of progress, any kind of effort that they are making to learn how to walk as they master that skill, right? We praise them. And here we all are walking around without even thinking about it. I mean, I might trip over my feet a few times or lose focus and walk into a wall. It's fine. But I'm doing it and I don't have to think about it. But if I'm constantly being like scolded and punished because as an infant, I'm trying to take a step and I wobble and fall and I don't master it right away, like, that's crazy. So that is exactly what happens, though, in a different context when it comes to us learning this people-pleasing tendency and that perfection paralysis and that fear of failure. We feel like we have to get it right the first time. But again, our brains don't work that way. Why are we doing that? So stay tuned, because I'm going to talk about one of the things that really helped. So one of the things that really helped me overcome that perfection paralysis was recognizing that I can change my mind. I can always improve. And following that 80-20% rule, right? Like giving 80% of my effort and getting to an 80% solution. And then I can come back and make all of the perfection tweaks and try to get every single pixel in line. And that helped me actually get a lot further, because it gave myself permission to fail and gave myself permission to improve and to continue to grow and learn and expand. And I realized that the only true failure there ever was the failure to grow, the failure to learn. And once I caught on to that, I realized that everything is a learning opportunity, not a failure. Right? And as long as we are actually learning what we need from that experience and making the adjustments to improve, we're heading in the right direction, and that's enough. And that was one of the things that really helped me break out of that perfection paralysis. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times where I get so overwhelmed with all the tiny little pieces that I just want to tear it all apart and start over, because the perfectionist kicks in. But I always have to kind of step back and remind myself, it's okay. Little pieces at a time, get to an 80% solution, and then come back. So I hope that helps you. I'd love to hear your stories about perfection paralysis and what's helped you as you're working through it. Okay, so if you suffer from perfection paralysis and identify as a people pleaser or a recovering people pleaser, I would love for you to set up a call with me. The link is in my bio, and just schedule a consult call with me or a 20-minute vent session, whatever. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your stories. And if you are ready to really break those habits and invest in yourself and begin to really recognize that you are strong, you do have the capacity to learn, you do have permission to make mistakes and change your mind, and permission to grow and learn more as you keep trying, then set up a call with me and talk to me about my karmic coaching program, because that's one of the things that I absolutely love helping people with, is overcoming that, because I've been there, been in your shoes, and let me tell you, The grass is greener on the other side. So if you're even just curious, you're thinking about it, maybe it's for a later thing, that's fine. But go ahead and set up the call, because you never know when the time's going to strike.